Yo, what's poppin'? It's Thomathan, and today I'm going to be talking about the most overrated player from every single team, in my opinion. Now, this is a very drastic topic that, depending on who you talk to the most, depending on what kind of circles you're in, the answer will change pretty significantly. But anyway, it's always fun to talk about. So before I get into this, like this video if you like this kind of content. I do try to upload daily. Subscribe as well. And yeah, so starting off, I'm going to start with Washington because I started with Atlanta last time. Let's go down to Washington. I think it's pretty unanimous that this answer should be Decay, right? He hasn't actually done anything, and it's still like, oh, Decay is one of those big players. You want to commit everything to him. He's just able to take over a game. And while that is true, sometimes he just kills five and he'll win you games. But it's more like it's not consistent enough. It's not on a high enough level anymore that we can really say Decay is like an elite player. I don't know if that's a true statement you can make, but that his reputation has kind of gone above what he's recently been doing, I think. I still think Decay is a very good player, and he has the potential to be absolutely game defining. But in terms of this season, his reputation is a little above him right now. And now we're going to talk about the Paris Eternal. This is very hard because no one is really being overrated. They're just not good. But I think, for me, it's going to be Wub. People were always like, you know what? Wub can make a real spot in Owl. His hero pool's massive. He's pretty good at everything. I don't see it after the season. I don't see a future for Wub and Owl. Now, that could be extremely harsh. But I hope he proves me wrong because I like Wub a lot. I really do hope that what I'm saying, that my thoughts are just unfounded, not true, garbage. However, I do not see him in the league next season as it is right now. Now, maybe on a higher level team where he's used as a very much a role player that you just put in for heroes that maybe some of your other players aren't as specialists in, and he can fill out your roster for very cheap. I could see him being there. Maybe that's the only situation. I don't think he's ever Overwatch League starter caliber for a half decent team. He's not even starting on this team a lot of the time. So that goes to show you. So maybe this isn't overrating him. People said that they had that. This might be like a past thing. He was previously overrated. Now he's rated properly. It's the closest I can get to overrated on Paris, at least. And now New York. So it's got to be Yaki. It has to be Yaki. Top 3 flex DPS. Top 3 Genji. Maybe not. Maybe not. Sometimes he's just like he gives up. I don't know if it's just like he's given up on this season. He's like, you know what, this season's a wash. I'm good enough. I'll get into another spot. And he's given up sometimes. Because sometimes it just feels like that. Other times you'll see him, like against that LA Gladiators, just decide that he wants to win. And he'll go. And you know what? He went unchecked in that game. And he absolutely dominated. He has this potential. He's a very good player. I just think that this season, to call him super elite isn't quite realistic. Now, it doesn't help that his team's not great around him, but we cannot go out and call Yaki MVP level top 3rd flex DPS. It's not real. It's not real. That's kind of the joke, but it's you can't. So now this is going to be a very controversial take on Seoul for me. I actually think it's Fitz. Now, Fitz, the perennial, oh, he's so good, but he just gets no credit because of Prophet. This season, that is just not true. Prophet has just been better consistently. Stalker, you could even argue, has looked better on the hit scan role. It's very close. I don't know if he has. I think it's pretty close. But Fitz has not been at that level. People are like, oh, it's Lip and Fitz are the best 2 hit scans in the world. No. Fitz has not been up to the level of MN3, even, I would say. Our Lip has been far and beyond him. Shy has been better than him. He's not been that level, and people are still calling him underrated. No, I don't agree with it anymore. I think he is overrated, almost. Now, he's still a very good player. Still has the potential, but this season it hasn't been there. Now, he's the kind of player that isn't going to pop off a lot. That's just not him. He's gonna put out some damage. He's gonna get some good picks. That's him. He does that still, but people are hype him up to be like people still don't know about him. Like, it's like the thing where you underrate a player so much that he becomes overrated. That's what Fitz is. You see it in every single sport. I don't know, hockey nerds, Nicholas Backstrom, that happened to, and then he came back down. It'll come back down next season. Fitz will go back to being underrated. But for the longest time, it's like, oh, Nicholas Backstrom, most underrated center for years. And then suddenly, you know what, maybe he isn't underrated anymore. Maybe he's properly rated or even overrated. So that's a small aside for anyone who pays attention to hockey. But like, I don't know, Fitz is like that guy for me. And I'm actually going to call him overrated on the season. So now, to the Vancouver Titans, I think it's going to be King. So no, I do say that King's not very good. But there are people, I see them, and they're like, you know what, King's a pretty good Genji. He had a pretty good showing off the start. I just don't think that's true. He had an okay start against Toronto, and he still had a lot of fumbles, and he just has not looked like he's been able to step up to the ring compared to a lot of other guys. Now, when he is able to, when he does show to have a good game, Vancouver looks a lot better for it, but I don't think he's actually been a good player in this league. An average player, I would say. I'd say he's been below average. I think we need to talk about him like he has been below average. But also, who are you going to pick on Vancouver? Aspire? You could say Aspire's maybe a little overrated sometimes, but I don't really think so. I think he's insane. I don't know. King just seems like the obvious fit for me. And I know a lot of people are like, you know what, King's not very good. Sure. But I do see a bit more hype than I would like to see about King. When the answer, I'd like to see zero hype for King, to be honest. Yeah. So now, looking at the Toronto Defiant, this is kind of hard for me. And I want to say Twilight, actually. So there were times in the middle of this season where you would see Twilight best flex support, top 3 flex support. I just didn't see it for the majority of this season. I thought his break was spectacular in the Summer Showdown, but when it came to midseason madness, kickoff clash, I was not like Twilight's the one. He's not been there for me. I don't think he's been there. He was a part of Defiant's struggles. He wasn't, saving them. He wasn't like even a nice spot, a shining, a glimmer in that mid team for the longest time until the Summer Showdown. And on the flex support role specifically, he has been a bit overhyped this season. He's not been all the way there. Yeah, he has a lot of sleep darts for 10, but he's also the kind of player that just throws the sleep darts out whenever he wants. So some of those sleeps are just not relevant. They just don't matter. Or they're not as high value as some other sleeps, like Shoe's sleeps, for example. Shoe gets a lot of high value sleeps. Twilight hits more sleeps, but Shoes are higher value probably. We don't have the stats to back that up, but you know what I mean? So I'm going to go with Twilight. I think it's a pretty safe pick for me. And now you have the San Francisco Shock, and this is going to be a bit of a hot take one, I think, again, because this player has gotten a lot of hate recently, and it's going to be Kilo. So the thing with Kilo, I think he was very overrated at the beginning of this season in the kickoff clash and the midseason madness. People were like, Kilo has been great. He's been a fantastic DPS alongside Proper. I'm like, I just don't agree. I just didn't agree with what I was seeing. He had some good looks sometimes in that finals against the Gladiators. He played pretty good against Ons, but still Ons did diff him that one time. I just don't think that he was that good. And then suddenly he has a below average performance. It was a poor performance for him. That's not a lie. It was a poor performance from Shock as a whole, not just from him. And now everyone's like, well, Kilo sucks. We have to replace Kilo. And it's true. But it's been true the whole time. That's been a true statement. So I'm going to go with Kilo. Right now in the public eye, he is probably underrated, or I would say because there's so much hate from Shock fans especially, that just like, Kilo is so bad. Awful player. But like, he's not bad. He has potential. But I think he's been average. I don't know. But who else are you going to pick with Shock here also? It's like, I think everyone else is rated pretty fairly. So I'm just going to go with Kilo. And yeah, across the season as a whole, I think it's very true. And now looking at the Fusion, this one's very hard for me because I think people have a general pretty good idea of how Fusion players should be rated. Because, MN3 is going to pop off, but he's pretty inconsistent sometimes. Zest is going to be there the whole way through. Fury looks pretty poor on the Junker Queen. As Zarya, his grab usages have been okay, but he's been getting better. Belistria is the go, and then you have the 2 flex DPS, which are not great. I shouldn't say Belistria is the go. Belistria is a good tank alongside Zest and MN3, especially on the Wrecking Ball in the midseason madness. And then you have a poor backline. But I'm actually going to go with Fixa. I think Fixa's a lot worse than people are give him credit to be, or give him the discredit to be. Um, the thing about Fixa, his beats have never improved this entire season, pretty much. This entire time it's been Fixa beat. He beat engages, continues. That isn't really fixed throughout an entire season, basically, which is a very concerning aspect of his gameplay for me. And I think that we need to hate on Fixa. We're not hate. Don't hate on any player. That's not what I'm saying. I say as I'm hating. But like, I wish all these players the best. Like, obviously. Um, but I think that he's been a little overvalued sometimes, where it's like, yeah, Fix is like an average main support. I disagree. I actually think he's below average. Um, so I'm going to put Fixa here, but this is very hard. It's not by a lot. And this is just because I have to put someone, so I'm going to put Fixa. Then we have the Gladiators. So this one, to me, is definitely Reiner. I have no doubt in my mind right now that it's Reiner. Because everyone's like, hyper flex god. Even me, I had a moment where I was like, he's very flexible. He's good at the main tanks. He hasn't really shown that on the off tanks. We can't even put him in the same flexible category as Smurf, as someone even, anyone like that. Kaluge, even, I would say. He's been good on the Winston. He's been good on the Doomfist. He's been good on the Reinhardt. That's where it ends. The Junker Queen was subpar. The Sigma gameplay, when he did come in and play it a bit, wasn't great. He was playing some Zarya. It's not exceptional. It's good enough to get the job done, maybe. But whenever even then, that's not true, because it depends on what the job is for the Gladiators. Is the job winning the whole season? If the job is winning the whole season, maybe it's not good enough for the job. Maybe not. I think he's a great player. He is more flexible than the average player, but he's not hyper flex. People are hyping him a bit too much. Hopefully, people have toned down a bit on him, especially after the Junker Queen performance, which wasn't exceptional. I'm going to go with Reiner, but Reiner's still a great player. Still one of the best rookies. Still one of the best tanks in NA for sure. But we need to tone it down a little bit. And we have toned it down a bit, but for a bit there, it was a bit much. Now looking at Houston, I'm going to go with Lastro, I think. I know people have said, Lastro's been great on the main support. He hasn't been great. He's been good. He's not been, like, super good. He's not... I think Violet's been better than Lastro. But he's been much better than, like, a Gang Ninja main support. And I think his flex support, while it is a strong suit for Houston to be able to play creative Lastro or before Iris Lastro, it wasn't lighting my world on fire. I thought it was like, you know what, this is a good look for the team. They look okay with it. But I wasn't like, you know what, this is the best support I've ever seen. The support line's crazy. I was like, you know what, it's pretty good. It was my thoughts. Well, I know there's some people out there that are huge Lastro enjoyers. I think I'm just going to permanently be disappointed with Lastro ever since he was on the Defiant, and I just never saw what I was promised. He's been better than that, to be honest. But I don't know. I feel like Lastro is my pick, but I might have be a little bit of a Lastro frowner these days. So I don't know. But now going over to the Shanghai Dragons. This is also a very difficult one because everyone knows that, like, for the most part, people are aware that Fleta is not performing very well, so it's not Fleta as it maybe would have been at the beginning of this season. It's definitely not Lip because he's literally top MVP candidate. Who's been great. I don't think it's Li Xiaogan or Izayaki. Bebe's not getting any love. So it's one of the tanks. I think it's Void. You would expect Void to be exceptional still. He hasn't been exceptional. People are saying, his Junker Kun was pretty good. His Junker Kun was good enough to be more or less carried by the rest of his team. He was definitely the worst aspect of Shanghai last stage, and it wasn't extremely close. I think Li Xiaogan and Izayaki, and then Flip and Who Are You, all drastically outperformed him. He was good enough. He was hitting his shift button. He wasn't dying a lot, but he wasn't doing anything exceptional. It continues. Even on the Sigma, you'd expect him to have an unreal Sigma. I don't think it has been. I don't think the Sigma's been that good. And you can argue, there's been Bebe behind him. All this stuff. It stems from Void. Tank is such an important role as an individual. I think the tempo for Shanghai has just never been there. That neither of their tanks have been performing as they should. And I think we need to recognize. Most of the people do. Like, this is just a team where it's like, I have to say someone. I don't want to say no one. So I'm going to go with Void. But I think for the most part, people do have a good understanding. You know, he's not the same as he was last season. He's not like the best tank in the league. Like last season, undoubtedly top 2 off tank minimum. This season, not quite the same. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Void. From the LA Valiant, I'm gonna go with Sawson. So the thing with Sawson is people are like, oh, you know what? The Zarya guy. He plays a Zarya. He plays a Zarya good. I think he plays a Zarya all right. Now, I think that he gets outclassed a lot of the time by some other tanks that maybe he shouldn't get outclassed by. Like Piggy, definitely. Piggy also a great Zarya. Piggy outclasses him 100%. I think Bernard's outclassed him on the Zarya. Even Fury, who has not had a great season, as I said, he's been getting better, especially this stage. He's looked pretty good. But I think all these players are having a better look. Even Smurf, especially Smurf, better look than Sawson on the Zarya. So so Sawson's only character is Zarya. He's not even playing it at a level that's much better than the other Zaryas around him who play more things. Sawson is like, he doesn't even need to be on this roster. The LA Valiant power level is the exact same if you remove Sawson entirely. Marvel can play everything under the moon. Marvel is your hyperflex. He is one of the ultimate hyperflexes in this league. I would trust Marvel with any character, almost at all. You could argue maybe Zarya is not the one, but Sawson's inflexibility has been not great. And no, he hasn't been like, oh, we love Sawson. No one's really been like that. But I think that I'd like to see a bit more, I don't know, hesitation on valuing Sawson to this roster in any capacity, to be honest. I feel kind of bad because I'm just trash talking all these players. But they're good players, most of them. But anyway. So, now we're going to the London Spitfire, the hat I am wearing. There are a lot of options here. I think Backbone has been overrated on the Genji because his blades were awful, to be honest. I think that Admiral Landon Khan, all these guys have been great. Sparker's been great. Shax's underperformed, but nobody expected a lot. It's going to be Hottie. Even the league is overrating him by giving him MVP. He does not deserve MVP. I have no problem saying that myself. I personally don't believe he deserves it. His other characters that aren't the Reinhardt just have not been elite enough for them. And this is like, I think a lot of people agree that Hottie probably shouldn't be a nomination. But the league clearly overrates Hottie, in my opinion. And he's great on the Reinhardt. He is average on the other things. He was pretty good on the Junker Queen. But that's not MVP level. That's the level of standard we're supposed to be holding him to. And I just cannot do that. He's just not there. So Hottie is definitely my overrated guy here. Then we're going over to the Spark. And this is... Maybe this is wrong, but I think it's Architect. The fact that anyone even considers playing Architect for any reason blows my mind. I was so distraught watching Architect as a Spark fan last season. It, like, scarred me mentally watching Architect. He had a good Reaper. His Genji was okay. He wasn't even that bad when he filled in for Alpha E, to be honest. But I just do not want him on this roster at all. Not even a little bit. I just can't. Mentally, I can't handle seeing Architect play. It blows my mind. I see him on the Ana. Oh, no. My worldview is shattered. Like, you cannot be putting Architect on the Ana. Another candidate for this would be Gushue, but I think he's kind of looked okay ever since that start. He got off to a really rough start, but I think he's been okay other than that. So I'm going to go with Architect 100%, but this is like very much like a personal one where I'm like, Architect cannot play. So now going over to the Charge. It's going to be Jimmy. So this is like kind of real, kind of fake, because of course there's the whole Custa thing where he hypes up Jimmy a lot because it's funny, because Jimmy was really not great at all, to be honest. And now he's gotten a bit better, but he's still not even average, I think. Like, I think the vast majority of hit scans outrank him in APAC on any given day. Now, there are times where he comes alive, he kills 5, he hits the big clips, he does the aggressive flank, but overall, Jimmy's not that guy most of the time. Sometimes Jimmy doesn't fuck, to be honest. Sometimes he does. So I think Jimmy's I love the whole Jimmy bit. but he's not actually even. He's average at best, I think, for APAC hit scans. Because your APAC hit scans are insane, right? You start at Lip, you have Shy there. I think Easy Han has had better performances all in all than Jimmy, especially since Jimmy came in. So it's like, what you gonna do? Florida Mayhem. I'm thinking it's actually someone maybe. I was considering Xe, but Xe's hype is pretty justified. People don't think he's the same guy as he was before he had his injury, and it's true. He's not been that dominant because he was absolutely insane when he first came into the league. But now I think it's going to be someone. We're valuing his flexibility a bit too much. He is pretty flexible. He is pretty good, but his Zarya isn't exceptional, and he's playing it a lot, and sometimes he's not using that flexibility. We've seen him get over flexible and swap too much. I think he's really good. I think his Winston's definitely the bread and butter. But I don't think he's in that same realm of Smurf Hyperflex. He's not that good on everyone yet to be able to do that. He has potential next season, maybe, something like that. You see him develop a bit more on those more characters. I think he's pretty good for a solo tank in this league, especially on a budget team like the Florida Mayhem. But he's not all of that. I remember at the beginning of the season we were like, you know what, someone's the best player on the Mayhem. I'm not sure if that's true anymore, or if that was ever true, because I rate Hydron really highly. I rate Xe pretty highly, and I've liked what Checkmate's been doing, so I'm gonna go with someone. Now we have the Dallas Fuel. So this is actually kind of hard as well, but I'm gonna go with Edison. So the thing with Edison, people are like, you know what, he had an insane game. It's true, he did have some insane games against the Shock, but I don't think they were that insane. They weren't Lip level performances, and we kind of hype it up to be like, oh my god, he was crazy. That guy was like Shy. He was like Lip going crazy, dominating the game. I don't think it was like that. He was winning that 1v1 against Kilo very hard. He's a very flexible player, very good player. He's found a nice niche in this team with the Genji, with the Sojourn, the Reaper pick. It's all there for Edison. Love what he's done with his little niche on Dallas. I think it's fantastic. But the Sojourn was not exceptional. It was not crazy, stupid, bonkers, you know? So I'm going to go with Edison for that reason, because a lot of the time, the way that people talk, it sounds like Edison was one of the best Sojourns to touch the earth, where it's like, he was pretty good, and that's all Dallas needed. So now, Chengdu Hunters, I'm actually going to go with the leave, unfortunately. People still, like, most people understand he's not having that MVP performance that he did last season. That's fine. No one doubts that. But I was trying to decide who do I want to put here. And, like, maybe it is Leave. I think I've personally overrated Leave in the past. I put him S rank before. I don't know if he was really ever S rank on the Sojourn. Yeah, he's very good at it. But still, you want to see Leave on that flex DPS. If he was on it, no doubt in my mind, I would not be calling him a little overrated this season. But right now, I think that we're giving Leave a bit too much credit. He's like Easy Han level on Sojourn, realistically. We've seen Easy Han diff him multiple times. We've seen he's not been able to keep up on a consistent level. This could also be overrating some other players, but because I remember he did diff Shy in a match for sure. So it's a bit hit or miss, and I think he is very good because I feel bad putting Leave here because I'm a big Leave enjoyer. But honestly, who else could it possibly be on this team? I guess you could say Ogaga, maybe, but it just that Leave's not the world beater that he was, you know? And some people still hold him to that standard. And I don't think that's fair, but that's how it is. So I'm going to go with Leave, but it's a very light one because I think Leave is exceptionally good. Like, exceptionally good. So, Boston, it's easily Mag. Even if their own franchise overrated him by trying to get him to take Punk's spot. It just didn't work out. It didn't look good. He's supposed to be that guy on Washington. He was not really that either. I think maybe people understand that Mag's not as good anymore, or not. It just didn't quite live up to his hype that he was having coming in. But I don't know. I think bringing him into Boston is kind of a question mark whenever you have Punk there. And I was one of the people even who overrated, and I was like, you know what, maybe this works. As Mag did look like he had a better Junker Queen after that first week, but now looking back, it's like it's Punk all day, baby. It's Punk all day, no doubt. So Magic's just gonna kind of rot on the bench probably for the foreseeable future on the Boston Uprising. And finally, the Atlanta Rin. I'm going with Speedily. This one's a bit weird because it's more so he's not quite lived up to the hype there. So I think there were a bunch of people overhyping him coming in, overrating him in that regard, and it's still kind of there after a few weeks. However, this player, I think Speedily has the world potential. I think he'll step into his own probably next season, more so than this season. They're running out of time. They don't have a lot of practice left. So I think next season, Speedily is going to be crazy. This current season, he's pretty good. But he's not that level that was kind of expected of him to be like, you know what, even though he's coming in late, he has Rookie of the Year potential. He's looking crazy. Not quite, though. Not quite. But anyway, sorry if this video was super hater, but got to make the counterpoint. Wish nothing but the best for all of these players, of course. And anyway, let me know your picks down below, who you think the most overrated player is. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content. And deuces.